Hey, what's up, man?
How you doing?
All right. I guess you get used to doing this now.
Okay. My name is Darren McLean. My parents are, he's known as Buster McLean, and Gwenda McLean is my mother.
Okay. So what motivated you to become a helicopter pilot?
Well, I said it, you were here, you heard it, but I'll say it again. Always wanted to fly. From a young age, always loved aviation, you know. Like I said before too, we had Caymanian Airways, which is, you know, that's every young person's dream in Cayman, to fly for Caymanian Airways, because that's all we had, you know. So you go away and you get your license, you come back home and you can start flying for a national carrier. However, later on in life, I took a tour in the tour helicopter here in Cayman, and my passion for helicopters just ignited. So that's why I chose to fly helicopters.
Are there any particular skills or qualifications you need to become a pilot?
So of course, like I said, you need a license, and then you need a lot of hours of flying, a lot of experience to get to this point. You can start off with just a license, but the route always varies depending on your experience.
So for people who are not familiar,
Yes.
is there a number of hours requirement that you have to fly?
So every role requires a different amount of hours. This one requires a higher amount of hours, which that's why it was on secondment for such a long time. It is not really about the training, because your initial training, you can go to almost anywhere, but the type of experience you need to fly those roles, you have to build up over years and time of flying.
When you started, how many police helicopters were there when you started?
One police helicopter.
Okay. Did you find that the limited resources on the island impacted your ability to get trained?
I wouldn't say the limited resources did that, no.
Did you have to go overseas at any point to get some training?
Yes, 6 years overseas, so 4 years in Trinidad and 2 years in the UK.
How would you describe your experience in the UK versus Trinidad?
The UK, just the weather. Weather's always changing, you know, because Trinidad is in the Caribbean, so we're used to that weather. But the UK was the weather, the geography of it, the mountains, mountain ranges, snow, different climate altogether. So it's a lot more that you have to take into consideration once you go flying in the UK.
So you mentioned earlier how you're normally on some sort of mission.
Yes.
How do you balance those kind of demands with your personal life?
Oh man. I don't know if you heard it, but like I said, I've been apart longer from my wife than I've been together, and I'm back home now, but I'm still, you know, I have a job committed to the RCIPS, and it is difficult at times, because you do have to, at the whim of a moment, you have to pick up and leave to go on a job. You can get called in all hours of the night, and it is hard, but with a strong companion, you know, my wife, she has a very good heart, and she puts God first in everything, and she knows that once I'm going out there, I'm going to help someone, I'm going to save a life, I'm going to prevent something from happening. So it is hard, but once you have that support, and of course, like I said many times before, God is there at the helm of everything. You put him first in everything in your life, then you can't fail, nothing will crumble. You have that strong foundation.
So other than your wife,
Yes.
who would you credit, obviously other than your wife and
Yes.
God, who else would you credit for giving you support during some of the hard times on this journey?
So my parents, you know, before I even met my wife, my parents, they were the ones who pushed, you know. I remember my mother was the one who took me here on my first visit years ago, just to get some questions and to see how I should go about doing this thing. And, you know, she was the one who said, you know, Darren, we're going to get this done. And my father was always there, even with the delays. He was always keeping me in the forefront, keeping my name out there. You know, it's like, so people didn't forget that I was here, you know, waiting on an opportunity. So, yes.
So for the people who don't know what the stages in your career are as a pilot, are there different levels of helicopter pilot? Could you explain what that is?
So I started off as a first officer in Trinidad. So which meant I flew as a co-pilot, and I built up enough time as a co-pilot where I had enough experience that someone trusted me enough and could sign me off to fly as a captain, which was what I was doing in the UK. So in the UK, I was flying as a full-fledged captain, building up my time as a captain in the UK until then I could come back here and fly as a captain here with the police.
Okay, final question. If you could give advice to a younger Caymanian who is interested in becoming a helicopter pilot, what things would you advise them?
Well, I would advise them to start as early as you can. Be ready for a long commitment. It's not an easy journey, but it can be done. I've done it. You know, it can be done. So it would be a commitment of years before you actually start this, because you know you see bits and pieces, but you don't see the whole time frame. You know, you don't see the hours you have to be back and be in another country. The days, the months, the years in another country. You know, away from your family, away from everyone, trying to build up that experience. Because we don't have training here, everything has to be done abroad. So it's not something where we can join in the Cayman Islands, get everything here. Everything has to be done abroad. So it's a big commitment to be away from home for a long period of time.
Well, thank you for your time and all the best.
Thank you.